Hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Je voudrais commencer aujourd'hui avec quelques mots sur les nouvelles concernant la gouverneure générale du Canada, Julie Payette. Tout le monde mérite un milieu de travail sain et sécuritaire, et ça inclut les gens qui travaillent fort dans l'équipe de la gouverneure générale. C'est quelque chose que je prends très au sérieux. Hier, j'ai accepté la démission de Mme Payette. Ce matin, j'ai eu une conversation téléphonique avec Sa Majesté la Reine et je l'ai informé que le juge en chef du Canada remplira les fonctions du gouverneur général de façon intérimaire. Une recommandation concernant un remplaçant sera présentée en temps et lieu.
The Governor General's replacement
Monday will mark a year since the first recorded case of COVID-19 in Canada. If you're tired and fed up, that's understandable. But remember, this is not forever. With vaccines being rolled out, we're in the final stretch. Canada is approaching 750,000 vaccine doses administered across the country. And on average, the number of doses done daily is now almost 4 times more than what it was just 3 weeks ago. In other words, we're getting more vaccines delivered and delivered quicker, and these doses are getting out to more and more people. Yesterday, I spoke with the global CEO of Pfizer, Dr. Bourla. The next few weeks will be challenging when it comes to deliveries. That said, Dr. Bourla assured me that hundreds of thousands of Pfizer doses will be delivered the week of February 15th and in the weeks to follow. He also confirmed that we will receive all of our 4 million doses from Pfizer before March 31st. The current momentary delay is so that they can increase their production overall going forward. I'll also add that we'll get almost 500,000 Moderna doses in February, too. We're working around the clock to get as many vaccines as we can, as fast as we can. It's what I'm thinking about when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed, and every hour in between. Au moment où on se parle,
as we speak, the federal government is working with all levels of government to speed up vaccination efforts. We've already administered 1.1 vaccine doses to the province, or delivered them rather to the provinces and territories. We will ensure that at least 20 million are administered. I spoke to the premiers of provinces and territories yesterday during our 25th First Ministers meeting. I know that the premiers want more doses as quickly as possible. That is my priority as well. We will continue these efforts so that all Canadians who wish to be vaccinated are vaccinated by September.
At my 25th meeting with the premiers yesterday, we also talked about border and travel. My message to Canadians remains clear. If no one should be taking a vacation abroad right now, if you've got one planned, cancel it. And don't book a trip for spring break. It's obvious we should avoid trips south and out of the country. But remember, across the country, people are being told to stay home. So if you were thinking of traveling across the country for spring break, now's not the time. We need to hang on and hold tight for the next few months. We must get through to the spring and mass vaccinations in the best shape possible. Les mesures que le Canada applique pour les voyages et
the
les
measures
frontières
taken
sont
by
parmi les
Canada
plus
for
strictes
borders
au monde.
and travel are
Elles
among the
comprennent
strictest in the
notamment un
world.
test de
They
dépistage
include
obligatoire
a
avant le retour au
COVID
pays.
test, a
Et les
compulsory
États-Unis
COVID
suivent
test
maintenant notre
before
exemple,
voyagers return to
ainsi
this
qu'une
country,
quarantaine
and the U.S. is
obligatoire
following
de 2
suit,
semaines.
as well as
Avec nos
a
nouvelles
2-week
mesures, il y a
compulsory
maintenant
quarantine
moins de
period.
vols.
There
Mais
are
comme
now
je l'ai dit au
fewer
Premier
flights.
ministre,
As
on est
I
prêt à
said to the
prendre des
premiers,
mesures
however,
encore plus
we are
strictes
ready to take
s'il le faut.
stricter measures if
Ensemble,
need
on a
be.
discuté de la
Together,
gamme
we
d'options sur la
discussed
table
the
présentement.
range of options currently
Parce que quand il est
available.
question de sécurité, on
When it comes to
n'exclut
security,
aucune possibilité.
we are not excluding anything.
Alors qu'on travaille avec les provinces et les territoires pour mener à bien la
We are
campagne de
working with the
vaccination et
provinces and
appliquer les mesures
territories
frontalières,
to ensure
on
that
apporte
the vaccine
également un
program
soutien
runs well and
supplémentaire
that
à nos
borders are
ressources
safe.
en soins
We are also increasing aid to our healthcare system. As I mentioned to the premiers, we must ensure that we don't open up too early during the second wave. The premiers have had to make difficult decisions, and in some regions of the country, the number of cases have dropped. Our government will always be here for the provinces and territories when it comes to ensuring people are safe.
COVID-19 cases this month has put a real strain on hospitals. For Ontario in particular, the situation is extremely serious. When we spoke last week, I told Premier Ford we would be there to support Ontario with any assistance they need. Keeping you and your family safe is our top priority. That's why our government is deploying 2 federal mobile health units to the GTA. This will provide up to 200 additional hospital beds and free up space for people who need ICU care. Each of the units can also provide vital medical equipment and supplies. Of course, right across the country, we're also doing our part on testing. We've sent 14.3 million rapid tests to the front lines, with millions more on the way. Everyone should have access to a fast, reliable test when they need one. Finally, the premiers and I discussed the new administration in the United States. We had a great Team Canada approach with the previous administration, and that's something that will continue to serve us well. During our conversation, the premiers and I talked about the United States' decision on the Keystone XL pipeline. I am, of course, disappointed with this choice. To workers, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan, who've been hit hard, we will continue to have your backs. We will always stand up for good Canadian jobs. Canadians and Americans are more than just neighbors. We are allies, partners, and friends. Together, we've faced some of the greatest challenges the world has ever seen. So I know that we're ready to work shoulder to shoulder to defeat COVID-19 and rebuild economies that work for everyone. And this is something I look forward to discussing with President Biden when we speak on the phone later today. Je sais que le président Biden et moi, on est sur la même longueur d'onde à propos de la lutte contre les changements climatiques, de l'importance de créer de bons emplois pour la classe moyenne et de la nécessité de bâtir un monde plus pacifique
and the importance of creating a more stable and peaceful world. For some time now, Canadians and Americans have joined forces against common challenges and issues. I know that together we can continue to improve life for people on both sides of the border.
I want to end this morning by recognizing that this will be an especially tough day for the people in La Loche, Saskatchewan. To everyone who lost someone, to the survivors, to the entire community, you are in our thoughts and in our hearts. I met many of you when I visited La Loche and spoke with students and teachers and community members. Your strength and courage is remarkable. In the last 5 years, we've worked together on new programs and resources for your school and funded cultural and language-based programs, on-the-land activities, and mental health services for students. But I want you to know today, we will continue to be there for you. Today and always, Canada stands with you. It's just who we are. People across this country stand there for each other when times are difficult, and we will continue to be there for you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now go to media. Start on the phone. One question, one follow-up. Operator.
Thank you, merci. First question, Christy Kirkup, The Globe and Mail. Line open.
Hello, Prime Minister. Did the vetting process for Ms. Payette involve reaching out to Canada Land Company, which employed Ms. Payette at the Montreal Sciences Centre, or the Canadian Olympic Committee?
For all high-level appointments, there is a rigorous vetting process that was followed in this case. Obviously, we will continue to look at that vetting process to ensure that it is the best possible process as we move forward. Okay. Il y a toujours un processus rigoureux
There's always a
pour
rigorous
regarder les antécédents de
process
quiconque
that
se fait
examines
choisir pour
people's
des postes
experience
importants au gouvernement.
for
Mais
any
évidemment,
important
nous
position
allons
in the government.
continuer de
Obviously, we will
regarder comment on peut
continue
améliorer ces
to
processus.
look at how we can improve this vetting process.
But, Prime Minister, there were so many red flags that were documented, including harassment allegations about Ms. Payette prior to her being named Governor General. So, Prime Minister, where does the buck stop? Where does the responsibility lie for this?
Obviously, the vetting process that was in place was followed, but obviously we're going to also look at ways we can strengthen and improve the vetting process for high-level appointments.
Merci. Prochaine question. Operator.
Thank you, merci. Prochaine question, Mélanie Marquis, La Presse, à vous.
Melanie Marquis from La Presse.
Bonjour, Mr.
Question.
Trudeau.
Mr. Trudeau, do you regret having appointed Julie Payette to be the Governor General? Answer. I think that Ms. Payette, with her emphasis on science and service, brought a great deal of positive aspects to her, to the job. Obviously, everyone has the right to enjoy a safe and secure workplace. This is something that our government profoundly believes in. And for this reason, we accepted the Governor General's resignation. Follow-up question. Mr. Trudeau, you spoke with Ms. Payette Wednesday night on the phone. What did you say? Did you try to encourage her to resign? Answer. I had the chance to sit down in person with Ms. Payette to speak about the situation. She explained that for the good of the institution and the country, she would submit her resignation, and I accepted it.
Thank you, merci. Prochaine question, Raymond Filion, TVA, à vous.
Question, Raymond Filion, TVA. Good Friday. Have a good Friday, Mr. Trudeau. For non-compulsory trips, will voyagers be required to have compulsory quarantine at their expense in hotels? Answer. This is a possibility that we are examining. As I mentioned yesterday to the premiers, we're looking at a whole host of options that could be adopted so that we ensure that Canadians are protected and to discourage non-essential travel. This is an issue that we all agree upon, but we have to remember as well that we are constantly reminding people not to travel. And we have some of the strictest measures in the world for people who do travel. There's a 2-week quarantine period. It's been in place since March. And there is follow-up not only on the part of the federal government, but by local police forces who ensure that people do stay quarantined. And there are very heavy penalties if they do not. Now, there is the compulsory COVID-19 test before anyone gets onto a plane home. We spoke with the premiers on the various options, and we'll be telling you more in the days to come. Follow-up question. What are the options that are on the table right now? Are you thinking of stopping certain flights out or into Canada? Wouldn't it be a good idea to tell us today already when people are perhaps planning travel to abroad? Answer. As I said a few days ago, this is no time to be planning a trip abroad, especially a non-essential trip, a mere vacation. We will perhaps be implementing new measures without any warning, and these new measures will make it much more difficult for Canadians to come home after a trip. Why would we do this? Because our priority is always to protect Canadians, particularly that there are now variants of COVID-19 that we're finding across the world. It's essential that we come together and protect Canadians. These measures will only be necessary for a few more months. Vaccines are on their way. They'll be here by spring. We'll be entering a new phase of this pandemic then. And in the meantime, we must abide by the rules and be careful during these last few months of winter.
We have been very, very clear, and I said it a few days ago, that people should not be planning non-essential travel or vacation travel outside of the country, particularly because, as I said a few days ago, we could be bringing in new measures that significantly impede your ability to return to Canada at any given moment without warning. Last night, I had a long conversation with the premiers about a number of different options that we could possibly exercise to further limit travel and to keep Canadians safe, and we will have more to say on those in the coming days. But the bottom line is this: it's not the time to travel, either internationally or even across the country. With spring break coming, people need to hunker down, stay home, make sure we kill this second wave of the virus so that we can get through into the spring and the increase in millions of doses of vaccines that'll be arriving in Canada in the best position possible, particularly given the real concern about variants of COVID-19 that are being more and more documented around the world.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. You did not use a committee like the past government to select Madame Payette as Governor General. You went with your own personal selection, and the vetting process couldn't have been that rigorous because it was pretty easy for me to find out that she left 2 past workplaces amid controversy and questions around her treatment of staff there. So why didn't your government ask some pretty basic questions about her ability to lead, and why won't you commit to using a committee to select the next Governor General?
As I said, we are looking right now at processes that can be strengthened as we move forward, and we will have more to say on that as we make decisions.
But why not use a committee? Obviously, that did not work the first time.
We will continue to look at the best way to select people for the vice-regal appointments. It's an important role for Canadians, and we will look at how we can improve it. Nous allons toujours regarder comment nous pouvons améliorer le processus de vérification et de
improve the vetting process and the selection process for the position of Governor General.
Minister Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. A lot of observers look at this and believe that you bear a lot of responsibility for your choice. I'd like to know, do you owe an apology to the workers at Rideau Hall, past and present, who suffered in that workplace? Do you owe an apology to them? Do you owe an apology to Canadians?
I think as a government, we've demonstrated time and time again how important it is to create workplaces that are free and safe from harassment, and in which people can do their important jobs in safety and security. That is why we moved forward on significant measures for Parliament, for the public service, and why we consider that we needed to accept the resignation of Julie Payette, given the concerns that were raised. Obviously, the work that has been done by people working at Rideau Hall over the past years has always been exceptional. They fulfill important duties for Canadians, and as we saw, were sometimes in very difficult situations. We want to thank them for their work and reassure them that we will continue to stand up for workplaces that are safe and secure everywhere in the government, but indeed across the country.
Hello, Prime Minister. Amanda Connolly with Global News. Former governors general traditionally get an annuity worth roughly double or more what most Canadians earn in a year, plus an expense account of roughly $100,000 per year. My question has a couple of parts. Will Madame Payette get a full annuity and expense account despite resigning early? And given Madame Payette's record of questionable expenses, given the questions about her judgment on how she conducts herself, do you believe that she can be trusted to use those expenses responsibly, or will you change the rules to require public disclosure of those?
This country has very clear rules and regulations and processes and procedures in place to follow on in these cases of reporting expenses or indeed on annuities for Governor Generals. Those processes will be followed, but obviously we're always open to having discussions on changes that need to be made moving forward.
But will you make them more stringent?
We will always be open to improving processes in place around this government.
Oui, bonjour, Laurence Martin de Radio-Canada.
Laurence Martin, Radio-Canada. This $150,000 annuity, we understand that Ms. Payette is entitled to it, but what is the message that you're sending to former Rideau Hall workers that suffered because of Ms. Payette? Answer, I think it's important to recognize how the work of Rideau Hall employees has always been exceptional. We thank them for the work that they've done in, at times, difficult situations. Everyone has the right to work in a safe and secure workplace. This is something that we will always take seriously, as our government.
Has the right to a safe and secure workplace. People who've worked in Rideau Hall over the past years have done so in sometimes difficult circumstances, and we thank them deeply for their work, and will continue to ensure that everyone who works for the government or anywhere in Canada continues to have the safe and secure workplaces.
Hello, Prime Minister. Mike Blanchfield, Canadian Press. Can you tell us more about your conversation with the premiers last night over Keystone XL and your chat with President Biden today? What were some of the specific measures or some of the specific points the premiers want you to make to Biden? What were they telling you about what Biden was doing, or the president was doing? And can you give us a sense of sort of their mood about this decision, which obviously some of them would not have been pleased about?
Obviously, the decision on Keystone XL is a very difficult one for workers in Alberta and Saskatchewan who've had many difficult hits over the past years. We have been there for them. We will continue to be there for them, and I will express my concern for jobs and livelihoods in Canada, particularly in the West, directly in my conversation with President Biden. But I think the fact that we have so much alignment, not just me and President Biden, but Canadians and President Biden on values of creating jobs and prosperity for everyone, opportunities for everyone, investing in the fight against climate change as a way of growing the economy, looking to be coordinated and aggressive in stepping up in our measures against COVID-19. These are things that we're going to be able to dig into significantly. It's not always going to be perfect alignment with the United States. That's the case with any given president. But in a situation where we are much more aligned on values, on focus, on the work that needs to be done to give opportunities for everyone while we build a better future, I'm very much looking forward to working with President Biden. Je pense qu'évidemment, il y a des gens, des
I think that obviously there are workers out west who were very disappointed by President Biden's decision. But as I just said, we will continue to be there to support the workers in Canada and defend their interests with regard to the U.S. What must be kept in mind, however, is that we now have a president who is much more aligned with not only my own values as Prime Minister, but also the values of Canadians. When it comes to climate change, for example, the importance of creating an economy with good jobs for everyone, the importance of truly fighting against COVID-19, speaking of inclusion and diversity as well. That doesn't mean that everything will always go well with the U.S. There will certainly be challenges, but to be able to understand, to agree on our approach and our values, to agree on how to improve the situation for all Canadians and all Americans, we are truly beginning a new era of friendship and joint Canadian and American work. I'm eager to speak to Mr. Biden this afternoon.
Gallagher, CTV National News. The official leader of the opposition has asked for you to reinstate the nonpartisan Vice-Regal Appointments Committee, as well as give opposition parties a say in the next Governor General. And given it's a minority parliament, how urgent is that new appointment?
First of all, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is an extraordinarily able individual who will very well be able to fulfill any and all responsibilities of the Governor General on an interim basis. So Canadians need not be concerned about political or constitutional concerns on that level. But obviously, as we move forward, we will reflect carefully on the way to best select a successor to the Governor General. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you, everyone.